To win, we have to kind of surrender and let go and trust, and then we find peace. It's kind of what I've learned in the last 10 years or so is that everything I'm taught here is kind of backwards. And then when I take a different approach, I get much greater results and much greater success.
Well, yeah. I mean, in my case, and I don't want to keep talking about me, but, what happened is we owned at that time a record store, and I bought a clone of the old Apple II. And I was looking at that, and I'm going, wow, this is hideous. It's really, and then I went over to the chiropractor to get my back popped. Next to me, they had one of the first IBM XTs. I looked at that, and I said, hey, can I take the cover off of that? And they go, yeah, well, you can do that. I studied that thing for I don't know how many hours. Next thing I know, I was drawing diagrams, and next thing I know, I was, coming up with a circuit board and had it a prototype made, and it went from there. And it was really good for 4 years till the computer market dumped, and it went all being made in Taiwan and Korea and places like that, and that killed me. But I mean, for 4 years, it was a job I loved. It was like it just fell on me.
Yeah, well, you have that left brain capability. You have that mathematical type of mind, so you're gifted in that regard, right?
Will you please tell my wife that?
I'd be happy to.
But I will say this. At one point, when I started socializing with some very important people in the computer software company, I really lost my scruples for a while. And you can make a lot of money. You can be buying a lot of cars. You can be buying boats and RVs and stuff like that. And you can be totally miserable inside. I'm just telling you, I was. Towards the end, I was miserable.
It's funny you say that. Just literally 20 minutes ago, I had that very same thought. Is how we're programmed to chase wealth. We're programmed to chase material things. In society, at least in this country, in America, they judge us by our net worth, how much money we have, what we have. And it's so ridiculous. It's so, meaningless. And then I took the thought a step further. I go, well, I have resources, I have money, I have freedom that way. But you know what? It's really not that important. The most important thing to me is my wife and my children and my grandchildren, my family, and creating those moments, those memories that are real. Everything else is kind of fleeting, but relationships that are consummated at a heart level. Not based on what you have, not based on ego, not based on who you are, but just pure love. That I think sustains us. That along with nature, and then by being close to our family and going into nature, then we find our Creator, and then we move from the head, which I call the insane asylum, to the heart, where we can find singularity and we can find peace and love and joy and compassion and all these things that really fulfill us, rather than all these things we're chasing that only make us happy temporarily, right? So what makes me happy today could very well make me miserable tomorrow, right? And so, and especially true in relationships. So.
Well, tell me. I've been married actually to 4 times. I've been married to my wife now for 42 years. The first time I was married was for 2 years. Then I got married again. Was married for a few months. We got divorced. We started seeing each other again. We got married, and then I ran the next day to my friend who was an attorney and said, "Hey, I want this annulled." But I wasn't happy. But how can I say it? If you're not happy with anything you're doing, you can have all the wealth and not have anything. In my case, when I was making around $4 million a year, my problem was, I go out and buy a brand new Corvette. I wasn't happy. 2 weeks later, I wanted a classic Corvette. So I go out and buy a classic one. The pattern just was going on and on and on. And I tell you, I was the only way I got happy, to be honest with you, I had to buy something expensive as a fix.
And it was temporary. That's like snorting a line of cocaine, right? It's just temporary.
Yeah, it lasted about 2 weeks.
Richard Pryor said, every time I do a line of cocaine, I feel like a new man. The problem is a new man wants another line of cocaine. It's, it's same with anything, whether it's sex or materialism or drugs, we more and more and more. And it's really, I think, the thing, what humans really, really want, in my opinion, is to feel good. And to feel good, we need to understand contentment, and we need to be at peace, and we need to move from the head to the heart and just experience the feeling of completeness, fullness, contentment, and family, nature, love, and get out of this, whatever's going on in this world right now, just get out of it and find peace.
I really don't know what's going on. After today with Trump, I honestly don't know what's going on anymore. I thought I had a grasp what was going on, but I don't. And people honestly are not in reality. A lot of people are in a make-believe reality, and not just with what's going on with their relationships, their jobs. They're miserable, and they don't understand why. You know, I came from Tacoma, Washington, after we had a couple drive-by shootings and a bullet went like about 6 inches over my head while I was sleeping. I moved out away from Tacoma. I bought a house with a couple acres. We put some horses in, some goats in, and I'm happy. You know, I feel like part of nature. I can go out there when I'm depressed. I go out there and, you know, talk to the horses and talk to the goats, and they follow me around, and I'm happy.
Yeah, no, I totally understand and hear you. You know, my wife passed away literally seven years ago today. She took her last breath. She's only 38. She'd been battling breast cancer for 9 years. And after that, I looked at the world. I said, you know, I gotta find another place to be where I can find peace. And I really felt led to work with women, especially below the poverty line. Something happened to me after my wife passed, where I met another stage 4 breast cancer woman, same age, 38, 3 kids, but didn't have a husband, didn't have the resources we had, didn't have, you know, she's a minority, and so I tried to help her. And I took her around to different procedures, surgeries, and hung out with her and tried to, you know, steer her in the right direction. And she was treated differently. She was talked down to or over her head. And then finally I took her back to my oncologist, my wife's oncologist, and where we had started, and he ordered all these tests. And then he said, after 2 months of this, he said, Amanda, the best protocol to extend your life are these 3 chemotherapies simultaneously. Unfortunately, your insurance will only pay for one. And I got to tell you, it just blew my mind. And I just instinctively said, well, here's my credit card, give her whatever she needs. And that was the beginning of a nonprofit foundation that we started 6 years ago. So I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of women below the poverty line battling cancer. And then finally I couldn't take it anymore. And so I went and bought a 20-acre farm in Medellin, Colombia. And we're in the process of building a natural healing retreat center where they can come and get the toxicity out of their body, get any psychological problems out of their mind, and get the left brain, right brain working together and to create, synergy, and then go into the heart and any emotional wounds we try to heal and try to bring congruency to the physical, the mental, the emotional, and then lead to a spiritual breakthrough where real healing can take place. So I hear you. I mean, to me, the world today is just like, well, it's kind of exciting because in one way it's collapsing. You know, all this geopolitical stuff, all this fiat currency stuff, all these messes that we've created over here. At the same time, there's a new awakening. People are seeing the truth. There's a new consciousness awakening. So I think this happens in cycles throughout history of mankind, and we're just going from a patriarchal type of energy to a matriarchal type of energy. And, you know, and the masculine is, you know, penetration and power and control and war, and the feminine is, you know, nurturing and letting you in and love. And so I really think there's a major shift going on, and the people that have been controlling this place for a long time are going to fight hard to hang on, but I don't think they can hang on to offset what's going to happen as far as spiritual awakening and truth and love and compassion. And I'm hopeful that we can bring heaven back onto earth again.
Well, we need it. You know, what you pointed out something about insurance companies, that they would only pay for one procedure. But,
oh my God,
you know, if she had all 3, I don't know if she survived, but,
no, she didn't. 18 months.
Yeah.
Which is typical, 18 months. So here's the deal. You know, I don't think cancer really kills. I think it's a treatment of cancer that kills faster than anything, you know, and it's such a horrendous death. So, you know, we need to look at this. We need to go back. You know, this medicine that we use today is less than a little over 100 years old, right? We need to go back to the way we used to treat people and treat the whole organism. You know, every woman I work with that has breast cancer, the protocol is always the same. Cut off the breast, put a hole in the chest, fill it with poison, and then radiate or burn the body with this big $1 million GE or Siemens machine, and then wish them good luck. It just makes absolutely zero sense.
Well, it don't make any sense because I watched my grandfather. You know, he had, for a couple of years, he had to take baking soda every night because his stomach was upset.
Right.
We finally take him to the doctor. The doctor says, no, you got stomach cancer. So, you know, he goes, you got to go for radiation. And so we took him to the hospital once a week, and he was getting radiation. Then, you know, he was still, you know, I asked the doctor before that. I said, if he doesn't go radiation, how long does he have to live? And he goes, maybe a year or two. Well, you know what? After he started the radiation, he was dead in 3 months. And it was the most horrendous death I ever seen. The last couple of weeks he was alive, he had to sit in his easy chair. He couldn't go to bed because he couldn't breathe. He was hooked up to an oxygen tank. He couldn't eat, you know, he could barely speak. And I just watched him, you know, a strong man, just, you know, wither away. And then same thing with my mom. My mom had throat cancer. So what they do, they'd give her chemotherapy twice. The doctor said, okay, everything, you're fine, it's gone. 3 months later, she got sick. Well, they didn't bother checking anything else. It spread to her lungs. She died of lung cancer. Now, sum it up. 4 years ago, I was working. We owned an indoor skate park for kids could skateboard. And I would, you know, have to walk, you know, the length of it to go, you know, to the back because we also had a concession area. And all of a sudden, my legs started hurting really bad. So my one son takes me to urgent care, then into the hospital. They do x-rays, and the doctor comes out cold as can be and says, you know, you have bone cancer.
Wow.
Okay. Then they refer me to doctors, right? Well, okay, let's start chemotherapy. Let's do this, right? I tell you what I ended up doing. They wanted to cut my legs off, both of them. Okay. Wow. I ride a motorcycle, okay, and that's my passion in life. And all I could see is, okay, well, no legs, you know, I'm going to be in a wheelchair. How long is my marriage going to last at this point? And, you know, I can't do anything I want to do. So you know what I did? I focused on my motorcycle so much and forced myself, even when I was in pain, to get on the bike and ride, like from Seattle to Las Vegas and back. I forced myself to do stuff like this. Well, guess what? The cancer hasn't gone away. It has spread a little bit more, but the doctors are shocked. Why hasn't it, you know, why I'm still alive, okay? Yeah. And you know what? It's because I focused on something so strong, and I told my family, don't feel sorry for me. I don't want to hear anything. So they didn't say anything. So when I was limping around in pain, they kept their mouth shut. But you know what? I'm still here.
Wow.
But,
I love this story.
But I will say this. The medications they gave me, and I'm still on some of them, but I had to wing off of them. The medications they gave me after I went to another doctor, those medications could have killed me if I would have kept taking them.
Yep.
So maybe it relieved a little bit of pain and discomfort, but the stuff I was taking was so toxic. It was killing my liver, killing my kidneys and everything. It's crazy. So, yeah, it's a Band-Aid. You know, doctors don't give compassion anymore.
No. Well, you know, I'll just say this. Number one, I applaud you for, one, being your own advocate, being your own doctor of your own body, of your own life, taking your power, your responsibility, and two, having the courage to make the decisions that you obviously either followed your gut instincts or your heart, and you made the decisions that made the most sense for you, and I'm sure you did some investigation and so on and so forth, and then you had the brilliance to say no to the drugs that you knew were going to eventually kill you in another way. And so, yeah, I mean, you are in the minority, my friend. You have, one, courage, two, you have intelligence, and three, for some reason, maybe because you do these kind of shows, you knew something wasn't right. So Yeah, so I mean, you just nailed it. I'd love to, in our nonprofit, we're switching gears. We're going to start interviewing people that have heard those words. Unfortunately, you have cancer. I'd love to interview you and get this story on our website so others could hear.